Good afternoon. My name is Susan Doyle and I will be your facilitator today on behalf of Lean Construction Ireland. I would like to welcome you to this Lean Construction Ireland webinar presented by Mark Mitchell, Head of Capital Delivery, Northern Ireland Water, Brian Thompson, Co-founder, Partner of OutForm Consulting, Tom Fairclough, Digital Engagement Manager from OutForm Consulting, and John Carty, Account Director, OutForm Consulting. The title of this webinar is Delivering Northern Ireland Water Capital Programme through Strategy, Collaboration and Digital Improvements. If you have a question, please type it in the question box and we'll consolidate and ask them after the presentation. If there are any questions that we don't get answered during the webinar, we will follow up by email afterwards. The speakers for today are Brian Thompson and Mark Mitchell, and we will then be joined by Tom Fairclough and John Carty for the Q&A section. Brian co-founded OutForm in 2018 as an experienced director with a proven track record across the full breadth of infrastructure and manufacturing sectors. He takes pride in achieving exceptionally high standards, producing the best possible results for clients. His expertise is predominantly centered on linking strategy to execution through operational excellence. Driving the core values of OutForm, he believes in growing client relationships and delivery of results. Mark has 38 years experience in the water industry. He has worked on the operational side for 22 years, having responsibility for leakage, metering and billing, water supply and M&E services, water networks, distribution and maintenance, capital maintenance. For the past 15 years, Mark has worked within or as Head of Capital Works Procurement Business Unit. He set up the Capital PMO with responsibility for procurement, governance, programming and planning, supplier performance, risk, costs and output achievement. Mark is currently Head of Capital Delivery and SRO for collaboration at Northern Ireland Water. I will now pass you over to Brian and Mark to start their presentation.
Hi, thanks Susan. So just to kind of launch into the agenda for today, we're going to talk about kind of three main kind of areas. We're going to talk about strategy, we're going to talk about collaboration and digital. Quite a kind of broad array of topics to talk about, but hopefully by the end of the presentation it'll be clear why we've grouped those three things together for the purposes of this conversation. Just before we do kind of get into that, just to give you a little bit of a kind of business overview of who we are at OutForm. So, we were set up in 2018 and we've positioned ourselves as a genuine alternative to the big consultancies. Really, I suppose we really kind of specialise and focus on our expertise on productivity and efficiency. We bring a kind of best of both worlds in terms of we understand the kind of complexities of capital delivery and infrastructure, but equally have a manufacturing pedigree that can kind of shape our thinking and shape solutions. I suppose really, as a testament here and some of the work that we're continuing to do with Northern Ireland Water, we really kind of look to make change happen and focus on delivering results through kind of connecting kind of strategy through to the kind of mobilization of teams, and then really kind of embedding new ways of working to sustain the kind of results that are delivered.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome everyone. I'm going to just give you a brief overview of Northern Ireland Water and sort of about how big we are. Not very big in terms of UK water and sewage companies, but we are the only water and sewage company in Northern Ireland. We have 24 impounding reservoirs in service. We have another 24 to 30 that are out of service that we still have responsibility for. 23 water treatment works. We have 366 service reservoirs and 347 potable water pumping stations. We supply in around 570 to 600 megalitres a day through approximately 27,000 kilometres of water mains to around about 900,000 household and business customers. We then take the majority of that away from 727,000 business and households through 16,000 kilometres of sewers, 1,300 sewage wastewater pumping stations treated at just over 1,000 wastewater treatment works, and then deal with the sludge at 65 sludge management centres. So it's for us, it's quite a large undertaking. So currently, I'm in charge of delivering the Northern Ireland Water Capital Programme, which for PC21 is the biggest determination in our history. To give you an idea, in PC15, we got about £900 million for the 6 years. PC21, 2.1 billion. So it's more than double the investment, and it's increasing our annual spend. Currently around last year 175, this year it's 216, then it just gradually goes up until years 4 and 5 is about 450, 460 million, and then year 6 it drops back a little again. But taken on average, we have to spend about 29 million per month over the period. To do this, obviously, we've had to make a massive headcount history or increase, which is the largest in our history, apart from 1973 when everyone came to the councils to form the water service. So this is quite an undertaking at the minute. We're finding it very challenging because everyone knows our programme has increased, so everyone's trying to fish in the same pool for the same people. Throughout this programme, we have to deliver significant improvements to water quality, the environment, to our resilience, and to our leakage target, whilst at all times keeping an eye on our capital efficiency challenge, which is 6% over the entire programme, approximately 1.7 million per month or per day from day one. So quite a challenge. So if we to look at our challenge is pressure to support the economy through releasing development constraints. We currently have over 100 sites where there's a no development constraint on building new properties or new businesses. We have a step change in the levels of capital investment, which is stretching our resource. It's easy to spend, but spending it correctly and in the right place isn't so easy. We have challenging OPEX and CAPEX efficiencies, testing our ability to deliver more for less. And because we are a government-funded organisation, we're bound by PE, which means that capital spend and resource spend, which is OPEX, cannot be mixed. So it's very difficult to deal in whole life costs. We have increasing customer expectations and service targets. Customers always like more, and when they see us getting more money, they expect a lot more. At all times, we have to keep an eye on climate change. Our aging assets are straining to provide the resilience that our service needs. So our response to this was, it's important to technical bits. It's important to recognise what we have achieved in the past, because under very challenging circumstances, we did deliver through PC15. We never got our funding that we were required to get because of austerity, and then in the last year and the first part of PC21, we of course have had the pandemic. So we have been successful, but now is not the time to sit back and say, weren't we good? We We can't be complacent. We know what got us to where we are now, and will not be enough to get us to where we need to be. So we have to change what we do, because keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. Somebody once said that was definition of insanity. So we recognize that we have to change. So we've developed a strategy which will help us succeed in PC21 and establish the platform for PC27 to deliver for our customers. Our future plan: in creating our strategy, we engaged over 60 people through multiple stakeholders across all areas and levels of our business, and are those that have want an insight into what we do and how we do it, and use what we produce. So we had lots of one-to-one workshops, from the chief executive down to an operator on a treatment work site, because we recognized that we could not do this just as AD. We couldn't sit in an ivory tower, say we're asset delivery, we know best, and we're going to do what we want, and the rest of you will toe the line. That was not going to get us to where we need to be. We have to deliver customer expectations by knowing our customers and by involving them in the process. So from top to bottom, we engaged to come up with a strategy. And our strategy was basically, we had our goals, values, and behaviours, and they led us to our what we call our sunshine diagram. Sun top right, which is to grow, value, and trust, and to be world class. And each of these sort of pathways to our dark sun in the top have particular work packages within them. So there are the strategies around the side, and then individual pieces of work, and it all lead us to getting better. We understood that we couldn't do those all at once, so they're set out across the period. And as we used the same sort of process in PC15 for setting our sort of foundation, and we're now developing this further and more in depth.
Thanks, Mark. So I think in terms of as we develop the kind of strategy with Northern Ireland Water, collaboration was a kind of key theme that kept kind of coming out of that. Collaboration in kind of the co-development of the strategy, but also kind of collaboration across the wider business with the supply chain, with the stakeholders, etc. And really as a kind of a resounding theme that kind of crops up time and time again in the strategy is this kind of need to work better together. So we talk about those kind of multiple facets of collaboration. Now, for the purposes of today, we're just going to focus in on one of those, which is, you know, the collaboration within the kind of capital delivery program with the supply chain partners. Now, really, I suppose if we were to kind of ask the audience what collaboration means to them, I think it'd be quite interesting to kind of get that response back, and then you kind of layer onto that, you know, what are the most important kind of elements to make collaboration work. And as an industry, you know, over the last kind of 4 or 5 years or 4 years, the construction industry has tended to kind of gravitate towards ISO 44001. I suppose what we've looked at is we've looked at that and said, well, actually, that's a really, as all ISOs are, it's a logical, sound, process-led model. But whenever we looked at that in the context of the maturity of Northern Ireland Water, the maturity of the supply chain, really where we wanted to get to, we took a step back and said, well, look, the goal here is not to get the kind of the badge above the door or the waterford crystal in the cabinet. The goal here is to get, deliver the biggest program in Northern Ireland Water's history. To do that, we're going to do things differently. We've got to work differently with the supply chain. And so really that kind of goal came back around, kind of looking at program performance, driving more innovation, more efficiency, more surety of the program, and really, I suppose, in a commercial environment where everybody wins. So to kind of achieve that, what we've looked at is we've looked at kind of other industries, and I started out by talking about kind of the best of both in terms of manufacturing and infrastructure in this regard. And I suppose the analogy that I would use in the audience here is ISO 44001 was developed, I think, in 2017. But for 30 years, the automotive supply chain has been working kind of in a just-in-time manner where, cars come off a line every 50, 60 seconds. And so, collaboration isn't so much kind of talked about how it's talked about in the construction industry. Obviously, it's a more mature sector, but essentially the kind of pertinent point here is it's how we do business. It's how teams work together. And at the heart of it, it's about building those effective teams. They just so happen to be multi-party, multidisciplinary teams. And we need those teams to work together better, but also to focus on the collective result that they need to achieve. It's not just about the nice relationship part of it. It's about kind of scores on the doors at the end of the day. And so that was really kind of important to Northern Ireland Water. And I suppose that's broken down the approach into two main areas of focus. One of those organizational enablers, which NIW have done a lot of work on. They've just put in place over the last couple of years more collaborative kind of contractual arrangements. They're working hard to kind of create better transparency and visibility of a longer term pipeline. But equally, all said and done, those policies and commercial kind of frameworks can be put in place by organizations and a few like people within organizations. Where we really get the results out of is getting people on the ground to work differently and to focus on the outcomes. I suppose if you think about that kind of question about what's the most critical element, I think it's fair to say that if we're being really honest, good teams perform well, collaborate well, irrespective of the commercial arrangement. You could have the best commercial arrangement, win-win strategy in the world, but if you've got the wrong behaviors and the wrong team dynamic, then you won't get collaboration. So for us, that kind of the heart of this really does come back to the teams and making change to happen at a team level to make those more effective.
Sorry, I was looking at the alarm going on. So to that point that Brian was talking about, individual people contribute more when they feel engaged and they know what is expected of them. Do we recognize that? Didn't matter what I said, didn't matter what our executive committee said. We have to change the hearts and minds of the individual people who make up the teams. We have to get them involved and give them some ownership of this. So at that level, we mapped out our end-to-end delivery process. We reviewed the roles and responsibilities for internal and external PMs alike. What is their role? What's the consultant's role and what's the contractor's role? We set clear expectations to drive accountability and ownership. And we set up a skills matrix that mapped people's ability against what we needed them to be able to do. And then we looked at how we can develop our staff to give them the tools in themselves to provide the outcomes that we need and to change their behaviors and change the mindset. The mindset's one of those things that you actually in the construction industry for years and years, it's always been adversarial. And people changing their minds is, there's this sort of, I'm not letting him get one over on me. And changing away from, no, they're not getting one over on you. What you're doing is we are working together to achieve a better outcome. And if we do it properly, then we both get a better outcome. So it's not a 1-0 score, it's a 1-1 sort of thing. So having addressed the individuals, we then looked at the team. And the most important outcomes are achieved at by teams. Teams that collaborate well and have high levels of trust and clear communications. To create the conditions for our delivery teams, we looked at all our individuals, and then we looked at how they fit into the teams, and we created a collaborative team charter. The alignment around, to give alignment around a common purpose with a shared vision for success. We're providing transparency of the challenge through our program execution strategies, transparency of a pipeline of workload to our supply chain, indicating program milestones and efficiency targets so that everyone knows what pitch we're playing on and where we expect areas of innovation. But we don't set down a thing that says that's the only area of innovation. We expect our supply chain and our own staff to bring innovation for the betterment of the team wherever they see the opportunity. Ultimately, we're trying to drive the right to left thinking to ensure interventions at the right time to drive innovation and balance risk and value. Because the biggest opportunity for efficiency comes at the start of contracts. And too often as engineers, we see, oh, we need a wastewater treatment works. That's lots of concrete and big bits of kit in that. And that is not where we are in the times of the climate emergency or whatever. We need to think better and smarter and be able to deliver faster. So for our outcomes, it is important that there's a consistent focus on what we're trying to achieve through collaboration. So we have our individuals aligned to our teams aligned to our outcomes. We've created a bottom-up set of reporting tools that you'll hopefully see later that give us a single source of the truth and enable anyone within any structure in the team to see how they're performing and how they are providing what their input is giving to the overall outcome. It also provides a previously unseen level of insight, which enables us to align and focus on the priorities of the business. It provides transparency of performance, which enables us to spot where things might be sliding and therefore enables us to quickly have the right conversations and take appropriate actions. This has been a real bonus and a real insight because it is enabling us to see when things are going wrong in plenty of time to address them and mitigate them before they go wrong. And it is, whilst people might say they're always looking 3 months down the pitch, they're only looking at one little element, but there are lots of things that have to happen to enable that one key milestone or whatever to be achieved. And this has enabled us to focus on the individual steps that are enabling the milestones to actually hit a target. And there's not as many conversations around, well, I didn't get that because they didn't do this. Because people are seeing that they have to do that to hit it's the, you know, in the next 2 weeks to enable the milestone to be hit 3 months down the road.
I think that last point that Mark's making, or the last point on the slide there is critical in terms of, I think, what we see too often is this kind of left to right kind of view of the world in terms of, I know what I need to do, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that as quick and to the best of my ability. But actually, we need to kind of put more right to left kind of tension in the system, and go, right, well, you know, what do we need to do? Think about it from a last planner point of view. What do we need to do? Do we need to kind of overlap here? Do we need, you know, what kind of assurance do we need around that kind of delivery of the program, particularly whenever it's kind of tripling or quadrupling in scale? And I suppose that kind of takes us on to the kind of last section that we're going to talk about, which is digital. And the reason why we combined these three, you know, which hopefully is more and more clear, is we didn't start out to have a strategy that focused all on collaboration. We started out to have a strategy that delivered a plan for PC21 and involved everybody in it. Collaboration clearly is at the heart of that, and that's created the expectation and alignment in the organization. We've got a model here and work ongoing to really kind of put that into practice with a practical focus on, you know, delivering outcomes. I think too often we see kind of collaboration getting as far as the kind of, you know, which has merit, the soft side of getting people in the room, getting more conversations going, but lacks that kind of edge of, well, okay, we all get on better now, how are we going to deliver? And I suppose ultimately why we've added in the digital piece here to this conversation, but also, you know, in terms of the work that Mark's doing with his teams, is we've got to embed new ways of working. I think the reality in Ireland and in Northern Ireland is that we've got fairly limited new entrants into the supply chain, both on the consultancy side and on the contractor side. So, you know, the reality of new frameworks, new contracts coming into place is that we've still got the same people sitting around the table, you know, by and large, that we did 3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. And I think that's representative of many of kind of client situations. So you can't change the framework and have the same people and expect something different. So really, that's where focus has come about on delivering the outcome and the way in which we work together to deliver the outcome. But then it's backed up by this last bit, which is, you know, basically changing our ways of working and using digital to kind of help us do that. And I think that the kind of most pertinent part of that is trying to move from this kind of mindset where we report at the end of the month, and if we haven't hit where we needed to hit, we essentially replan, versus we look at what we need to achieve by the end of the month in week 1 and week 2 and week 3 and week 4, and hopefully we've replanned and recut our cloth at each one of those intervals, so that when we're getting to the end of the month, we've delivered what we needed to have done, maybe in a slightly different order, but we've delivered what we needed to have done, and essentially we're not having slippage either formally or casually, and that's where this digital piece comes in. Now, it is going to.
The other thing about that is the insight isn't just for the client, and that the client has to understand that in this, it's about collaboration and relationship management. The client has an important part to play, but also the client must accept their role and must change their own mindset and must lead, because where the client leads, the supply chain will follow, and because the client's the person putting the money in. So if we are going to show a right to left thinking methodology, we also have to highlight these are the things that we have to do. And if we don't have them done, then we're not going to hit the target. And that won't be your fault. That would be our fault. But it has to be, that will move everyone to our fault, which is the team, the collaborative team, rather than pointing fingers at one or another. And it's all about everyone working together to enable each part of the team to perform their function and enable that goal to be achieved.
So you may or may not have tricked, but I think Susan, who's hosting us here, has got a few more grey hairs from our technical issues at the startup. So we're going to push the boundaries on our technical ability here and try and share a pre-recorded video of Tom taking us through the Performance Hub.
Well, I know that screen at the bottom. No.
All right, bear with us a second here. Just get this going. Actually, Susan, I don't know if you can. Susan, I don't know if you can pass the presenter to Tom, and Tom, you show the video.
Yeah, it's gone to Tom now, if he just wants to accept it.
Thank you.
Sure, I just found the video.
All right, folks.
Brian, while we're waiting for Tom to find the video, would you like me to launch the poll?
Yeah, please, Susan, that'll be much appreciated.
Okay, we just have a poll to launch now, and if you just want to choose your answer once I launch it, you can pick your answer and we'll show the results in a couple of minutes. Okay, if you haven't voted yet, just have a few more seconds. And we'll share the results now.
Fantastic. It adds up to more than 100%.
That's how much effort we had to put in.
Okay, we'll go back to Tom now. Whenever you're ready, Tom, if you have the video there.
Sorry, Susan, can you just reshare it and I'll connect?
Yeah, you have the controls there, Tom.
Oh.
Sorry about this, folks.
These two old crusties are just not, you know.
Is that sharing my screen now?
Yep, that's it, Tom.
Okay, so if I just press play, will the sound come through?
It should do, yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Just want to higher up your volume there. Just your volume is down, Tom. You just want to turn it up.
Yeah, I'm doing it now.
Well, that seemed to be our issue as well. The sound wasn't playing. Okay. Tom, I don't think the sound's right. Do you just want to talk through, you know, as the video goes? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. What I'll do is I'll just I'll just record it now. So this is the performance hub we built in Northern Ireland Water. The idea behind it is that it drives collaboration and drives performance conversations across a number of levels in the organisation. So I'll just pause this and play it as we go through. So we've got executive committee dashboard at the top, a program performance hub, which is a program level piece, and then a project planning tool, which is down in the nitty-gritty for project management tools. So if I just continue pressing play here, the idea is that we got shared KPIs that you can zip up and zip down for the organisation. So it's the same KPIs that go through the EC, the program, and the project performance hubs. This is so that all the information is transparent and it's the same information that you can capture. It's all running from CPMR, which is Northern Ireland Water's internal system. So it's one version of the truth, or single version of the truth. So it's one report, really, a one-stop shop that can be used for program reviews, executive committee reviews, and project reviews as well. So we've got 7 key pillars here. We've got the health and safety at the top, the program, the cost, risk, KPIs, value, and efficiency. So the idea behind each of these is that it gives you a status at a glance, and it gives you an overall picture of are we on track or not. So it's not just we've completed X amount of milestones. This is how many milestones we've completed against the baseline, and this is where the issues are. This is how many are late. In the program as well, we have outputs, so it's a percentage outputs complete. And then moving on to the cost, we've got it's your current budget, the estimation, and the accrued. So it's showing you what the plan was, where we are, and what we're actually doing. And then we've got key KPIs showing percentage accrued versus budget, percentage accrued against year-to-date budget as well. So it gives you a really good indication of where you are cost-wise, and this flows through the rest of the reports as well. On the risk section, we have a risk timeline. So we start at the start of the year, the projected risk, and we go through the drawdowns, the contingency, and then at the end we have it comparing towards the current risk register and the challenge remaining, so we know where we need to reduce the risks or how much we need to reduce the risks. We've also got the top 3 risks for program delivery and top 3 risks for project as well. So that's all coming from CPMR, the internal system. It just refreshes. And then on the bottom section, we've got KPIs, value, and efficiency. So I won't go into too much detail on these, but it's essentially capturing KPIs against cost and time, and then key KPIs there. And then efficiencies are where we've got them, in what projects, and how much is the efficiency gained. Now, if I can, I'm just going to second guess the video, sorry guys, but I think this is showing the filter next. So you can filter this towards anything. We've got these 7 filters at the minute, but we can filter by L3 manager, L4, and that filters all the data here. So it gives you quite an accurate report just for your own projects and programs as well. This is all refreshed nightly, so it's a timely report as well. So it's not like it gets reported at the end of the month. If it refreshes each day, it means that all the report is accurate to the date as well. So next part of the video, we jump down to the program performance hub. So again, this looks slightly different, but it's all the same key information here. So we've got actions at the top, people performance, continuous improvement, but all the data in the background is the same source. It's all CPMR, it's a single version of the truth. The actions at the top, we've got action status, a link to an action log, and then a quick action to capture it during the meeting. So you can tag in actions during the meeting, assign an owner, assign a date due, and then click tick. I've just done one there, for example, that will come back later on the action log, we'll see that. And then we've got 3 key sections here on people, performance, and continuous improvement. People is around health and safety, so it's to drive conversations on safety. So we've got a safety cross with a key there, and then upcoming inspections. So it means it's on the left there to draw sight and make sure that is the forefront of our project managers' brains. Then we've got performance section here, which again we split into the same 3 key areas minus the bottom 3 from the top, the EC dashboard. We've got program, cost, and risk, and then we've got key KPIs for each of them as well. And then we've got returns at the bottom, so that's submittals, are they on time or not? So these all link through for the EC dashboard, right down to the project planning tool again. The final section here is a continuous improvement. So we've got collaborative values, which are the key values that Brian and Mark alluded to earlier in the presentation. And that's captured at the end of each meeting via a phone app. So you can click through each of the values and say whether we've done them or not during a meeting. And then you refresh the dashboard and then that will pull it through. We've also got Pareto analysis, lessons learned, and a practical problem solving tool down here as well. So these are a bit of work in progress at the minute. The idea is you can see where the key issues are across your key pillars. You've got lessons learned log to share across the business and see if any issues have been done, you've had before, what solutions were put in place for them. And the practical problem solving is an app which lets you enter the data by 5 whys, fishbones. It's basically just a problem solving tool that guides you through the problem solving process in a structured format, captures that information into the lessons learned log. So I think I've caught up to video here. So what I've done there, I've just clicked through into the program piece. So this is the program page here. So this is a lower level information, but again, we've got actions at the top, we've got key KPIs in the middle, and a milestone status at the bottom. So this is the same graphic from the EC dashboard. So it's the same KPIs tracking all the way through. And we've got it on complete, late recoverable, and forecast on track. The idea here is that we can quickly get to the root of the problem and then decide collaboratively what the solution is or what the action is to take. So for example, here I've filtered on the 21 late recoverables and A1 approvals, and that gives me that list below. So we can see what project the late milestones are on, who owns them, and then the reasons why it's late on the right as well. So I'm just going through there. So that's the actions there. So we now jump from the program piece to the project planning tool on the left. So this is the lowest level report. So this is designed for project managers to work with their teams collaboratively and drive improvement and have their project review meetings. So it's divided into milestones and tasks, where milestones are the same from your performance hub. And the task level is a level below. So this is the right to left mentality. What tasks need to be done to make sure you complete that milestone on time. So here I've got it filtered to Trunk Mains Rehab as a project. You can see the list of milestones down there and the Gantt chart on the right showing the life cycle of that project. And then we can filter on the milestones there. So this is a work in progress a minute with some dummy data in there, but you filter on the milestone, late recoverable, and it gives you the 2 tasks or might be X number of tasks there which need to be done to complete that. So it really lets you get to the nitty gritty. The reason why that milestone is late recoverable is due to task 18 being late. And again, you got the Gantt chart on the right there. And then we've got the action status, the action log, and a quick action. So you can collaboratively decide those actions, capture them during a meeting, and it populates the action tracker. So we'll now jump back up to the program performance hub. And we'll quickly view the cost and risk pages. So in the cost page here, again, it's all actions, KPIs, and then cost breakdown. The focus on KPIs here is on the variance, forecast accuracy, early warnings, and then we've got the cost breakdown. Again, it's all flowing from the EC dashboard into this one, so it's the same KPIs to flow through. And then we've got the table underneath, which can be filtered via the charts again, and it gives us our cost information. I've got some KPIs in there, so that red is showing where the unapproved estimate is higher than 0, so we need to approve some money. There's also a link here which goes to CPMR, which is Northern Water's internal system, their project management finance system. So it means you can get right to the nitty gritty here, see where you need to update it, and then click through into the system and then actually make those changes or request those approvals. Again, you can decide collaboratively on actions, capture them, and drive them through. So the final section here on the performance hub is the risk. So again, I won't spend much time on it here, but we've got the actions, KPIs, and then the risk detail from the EC dashboard. with a chart on the right, which is a bit more detail, showing it by team. And then we've got the risk register sat underneath. So I'll just let the video catch up. Oh, sorry, I'm just showing there the filters. So the filters go all the way through as well. So you can filter by manager, team, programs, projects. So it's for individual reporting on projects as well. So it gives a really transparent view. Final section, the performance hub is Pareto analysis. So this is to drive lessons learned and efficiencies and improvement initiatives. So it gives you across the 4 key pillars here: program cost, risk and health and safety. You can see where the issues are, or what's the biggest reasons for delay, top 5 early warnings, top 5 observations, and these all drill down into low levels so you can really pinpoint where it is and then capture actions and drive forward. So now jump into the action tracker here. So this is an action log. There's also a phone app which accompanies this, so you can capture actions, update actions, and close actions off on your phone. But you can also do it via this action log, so you can review these actions during a meeting. So here we can see the status, when they were due, who owns them. You can update them or close them off. So what we're doing here is just marking one as complete and submitting, and it goes green to complete. So thank you very much for your time. That concludes our presentation on the Performance Hub. Essentially, it's a tool for enabling collaboration and giving transparent data, or giving a transparent view to all your data, from EC dashboard to program to project views, and make sure that you capture actions to drive forward. The idea is it's not just wallpaper on the wall, it's to be used as a tool to capture actions and drive your business forward, complete milestones on time. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Tom. I think hopefully even with some technical glitches included for good measure, you know, it gives it a real feel. Because these things always have some hiccups, but you know, hopefully that kind of paints the picture there. And I suppose really this is a work in progress, but essentially, you know, within Mark's team, you know, you've got the PMO leading the reviews using this data. You've then got the project managers, you know, starting to get into more of a weekly kind of drumbeat again, you know, looking at the same data, taking actions, and really kind of taking a proactive kind of right to left focus in terms of what those actions are, and the kind of the involvement of all people, all parties in those actions. And it's very much used from a collaboration point of view in terms of the whole team, irrespective of what party they're from, have access to that same data, have the ability to kind of, you know, capture and add actions and mark the completeness of those. So I think it's really kind of starting to work in terms of almost creating that shared environment, and like I say, changing those ways of working to be more kind of results focused. So that's the kind of end of the kind of 3 constituent parts that we've presented. You know, we'd like to kind of welcome some questions and answers. You know, clearly don't ask us how to get technology to work, but everything else is on the card, and hopefully we'll be able to respond.
Thanks, Brian. That's great. Thank you to Brian, Mark, and Tom for the very insightful presentation. Now we will move on to the Q&A section. I'd like to invite Tom and John Carty to join us. So if you want to just turn your cameras on and your microphone in for the Q&A. Tom leads the digital strategy for OutForm and has an extensive experience in digital solutions, from mapping technologies to business strategies, automating business processes, and developing reporting solutions within the construction, utilities, and manufacturing sectors. John is an experienced water industry expert with over 30 years in the industry, designing and delivering transformational change at Scottish, Yorkshire, and Irish Water. He led the Europe and North America region for the Scottish Water International Consultancy business, delivering key results for clients in Canada, Ireland, UK, and Australia. So we have a few questions in. The first question is for yourself, Tom. How easy would it be to implement a similar solution in order to manage a company's own investment portfolio?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So I think what we're working towards actually at the minute is making this a product. So it'll be very easy to implement. So we're looking to move it onto an Azure cloud solution. So it'll be just a case of rolling it out for not long at all. At the minute, I'd say the effort is in mapping it towards the customer systems. So the dashboards, the platform, that's all there already. It's just mapping your data into that system, which will take the time. There's some bits of it as well, like the action tracking, which just pop up. That's like less than a day's work to get the action tracker stuff embedded. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Second question for yourself, Mark. You've made a significant investment here. What do you think the value benefits have been, and was it worth it?
Was it worth it? Absolutely. The value benefits are that we really have a much better insight and a much better understanding of our delivery program. I used to have a 20 or 30% over profile to make sure that I could spend, because everyone was over promising and under delivering. I now have the insight to know exactly where things are not moving, where they are moving, where they need an interjection to make them move. It has enabled me to remove duplication, identify weaknesses and opportunities for improvement, and it is definitely delivering day-to-day benefits, not only in how we do things, but how we are perceived for doing things, not only outside but inside our own organisation, because it gives the board and the executive committee much more confidence in my team, that they're confident that we know what we're doing, or they have more confidence that they know what we're doing, because we know what we're doing, because they know what we're doing, because they have the insight.
Okay, perfect. John, welcome. I have a question for yourself. How important is it to have the right commercial model in place to facilitate and drive the right collaborative behaviours?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Yeah, I think as Brian said in his presentation, I think the commercial model is not necessarily a silver bullet to enable collaboration in the organisation. But after saying that, the right commercial model, I think, can be a major lever in creating the right environment for collaboration to flourish, to encourage and nurture the expected behaviours around collaboration as well. I think when you look at collaboration, it's a mixture of hard aspects such as having the right operating model, the right organisational structures, good data, performance measurement, governance, management of risk, but it's also coupled with a lot of the softer aspects around having a shared vision, shared goals, the right behaviours in place to facilitate collaboration. And I think all of those words are fine until somebody's losing money or not getting fair value out of the relationship. And as Mark mentioned, it's about getting to the 1-1, not the 1-0. So the commercial model can be the vehicle to drive the right behaviours, but it's not easy to do. The model needs to be built around the right behaviours that deliver value for those organisations. So it needs to be relational, not transactional. It needs to facilitate things like the risk to the right place, so risk is allocated to the organisation that's best placed to manage it. It's not viewed by the client as an opportunity just to transfer or outsource risk unnecessarily. The model also needs to be challenging, performance focused, but also fair. And all parties need to recognise that the model's based on that challenging commercial and performance structure, but that it should always deliver a fair and equitable return for all parties involved in it. As Mark and Brian have outlined, I think it really gets to the nub of collaboration can deliver performance improvements, but the right commercial model can be a fundamental part of that continual improvement by setting the basis for collaboration and the behaviours and evolving those over the period. And also it can be used as a ratchet to move performance up as you go through the life cycle of that collaboration, whatever it looks like, whether it be an alliance, some partnership, a framework, whatever that looks like, but you can ratchet up performance over time. So the commercial model can be used from that point of view as well.
Okay, perfect. Another question from one of the attendees. I'll throw it open to the floor. Having the metrics in one place is great, and agree that the program should be pull rather than push, but how do you drive buy-in from all project team members?
I think I love it. I think that's obviously the $1,000,000 question. And I think then you're kind of straying into a change management conversation, really, you know. And I suppose what we're really doing here is, you know, we're as part of the approach, which wasn't outlined in the presentation, is we're working with the teams to kind of, I suppose, you know, create that kind of individual vulnerability, that kind of openness to the fact that there's a different way of doing things, and to the fact that actually, you know, despite, particularly from an internal point of view, more headcount coming in, that headcount is not kind of pro-rated to the increase in the program. So, you know, there is a need to do things differently, and what we're putting in place here is, I suppose, changing the ways of working, those habitual routines. And ultimately, you know, there's that kind of working with the teams, but also there's kind of, we're working with the individuals, but there's creating the environment in the team where, you know, ultimately getting 3-4 individuals in the team bought in will bring the rest with it, because it becomes the way that things are done. You know, the weekly meeting becomes the way that we talk about performance, and it becomes less and less optional not to turn up in all guises of that meeting.
Could I just say, one thing is, we do not use financial incentive for our staff. We cannot. So it is more a pride incentive. It is a pride in what they do, and knowing that they have ownership of it, and that their ideas will not be dismissed, but will be talked through and given airtime, and be brought onto the pitch if we think they're valid. So it's that really making people feel that they are important and they are an integral part of the team, enables them to move with it and move with the process.
And I think just again building on that, I think Mark captured something very kind of critical, which is, you know, being at the core, particularly of the team working, is creating that ownership. And I think what we're trying to achieve in the digital to bring people with it is, we're trying to make life easy. We're trying to shine a light and get a single source of truth. Fundamentally, we're trying to do that from a project manager's kind of viewpoint to make life easier, and ultimately provide a tool rather than a reporting hub. So, you know, it's multi-layered, that question, and you can never take it for granted, I would say, as well. You've got to work on that all the way through, even whenever these processes are embedded.
The other thing is, no matter how good you are, you'll never get 100% buy-in. There are always people that won't, that are stuck in their ways, or do it, and you just have to find a way to deal with that.
Okay, perfect. We're out of time, unfortunately. Sincerest thanks again to Brian, Mark, Tom and John for today's webinar. Please note that a copy of this webinar will be sent out to everyone who attended. Information will be sent out shortly in relation to the next webinar. For information on this and other webinars, the annual conference, the annual book of cases, and other LCI resources, please visit leanconstructionireland.ie and follow the Lean Construction Ireland LinkedIn group page. Finally, thank you to everyone who attended today, and we very much look forward to meeting you at a future Lean Construction Ireland webinar. Have a lovely day. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Thank
Bye.
you.